Gravity Falls Season 1, Episode 2, Search for the Crumplehorn Snorkack, or something like that. I was a little apprehensive going into this episode because I was worried that the level of impressed that I was with this show wouldn't carry over from Episode 1 to Episode 2, but thankfully my apprehensions were for nothing because right off the bat, I loved this episode. It starts off reminding me why I like Dipper and Mabel as kid characters because they're believable as kid characters, and yet they aren't annoying. So many kid characters have been absolutely terrible in television and have just been really grating and annoying, and you can like them every once in a while, but overall your viewing experience would be better off without them. Because it is exceedingly difficult for a writer to write kid characters who are both interesting and relatable. And if there is one thing that I feel like I have to commend this show for above all else so far, it's managing to strike that balance. The plot of this episode is very simple. Dipper and Mabel are drugged along by Grunklestan. Sorry, I said it wrong. Grunklestan on a fishing trip, and they find that boring, so when they hear someone talking about a monster that lives on a nearby island, they go off and look for the monster instead, and they go with the heavyset guy who works at the tourist shop with his name Seuss, trying to get a picture of the monster so they can win some prize, and that's really it. And the formula for this episode was effectively the exact same formula that we got for the first episode. Just replace the general setup and the introduction of the main characters with some world building and some bare bones introductions to a whole plethora of side characters from the town. Characters who were fleshed out just enough that I'm sure we're going to get to see more of them later on. The formula was the same right down to them running from the giant monster at the end of the episode, with a couple of fundamental differences. This time the monster didn't find them, they went to find the monster. We also, and I don't want to get too spoilery about these episodes where I don't have to, but we also found out that not every monster is going to be exactly the same in this show. The nature of the monster in this episode told us something about how the weird stuff in this town is going to be portrayed, and I feel like that has a lot of potential to keep things interesting. It even ended with a message. It was a message show. It looks like all of these are going to be message shows in one way or another, and that message was that, hey, maybe it was a dick move to leave your granduncle alone in a boat when all he really wanted to do was spend time with you. It's an age-old message, but it was conveyed very well here. It carried a lot of weight. The emotion was behind it. And so I still feel like it worked. And I'd imagine that they're trying to keep the messages simple here at the beginning, and eventually they'll start dealing with more complicated stuff later on once the show is better established. Once again, the animation in this episode was great. The backgrounds in particular in this are fantastic. And secretive, misty, dark places are always very well handled in this show. But more than anything, I feel like I need to comment on the comedy in this episode. This show is still primarily a mystery show. It definitely has the vibe of a mystery show. Even in this episode that didn't really have anything to do with the journal, for example, the journal was still used to decent effect by the end of the episode. So the mystery elements are all there. It is a mystery show, and yet the last time I laughed out loud this often while watching a cartoon, it was a straight-up comedy show. It was The Amazing World of Gumball, for those of you who might be wondering. Mabel imagining what she'd do with the prize money from turning in the photo was consistently hilarious. Mabel herself is consistently hilarious. And the scene on the boat with the cameras was genius. It was perfect, and I love it, and I want to go watch it again right now because it was just that funny. Overall, the idea of a lake monster is something that's been done to death in fiction, and I don't feel like this episode did enough different in regards to that specific plot. Even the reveal at the end, the one that I'm not spoiling for you guys, doesn't really change my opinion of that, but this episode was wrapped up in a satisfactorily enjoyable package. So I didn't mind the repetitive formula, I didn't mind the cliches. It was still fun going along for the ride. Now, I do think that this show is going to have to mix things up a little bit more as it progresses further and further into the storyline in order to keep me this invested. But based on from what I've seen so far from this writing team and from these animators, I have no doubt that they'll be able to do that. Maybe that'll change after I've seen more than exactly 2 episodes, but as of right now, I have a lot of faith in him. Oh, and before I forget, that bearded guy, I really hope we see him again because he's very entertaining. All that said, guys, if you have seen this episode of Gravity Falls, what did you think of it? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.
There he is, Bigfoot. Uh-oh, no camera. Oh, wait, here's one. Oh, no film. You see what I'm doing here?